Well, hey there, listeners, and welcome back to the podcast. This is the place to be if you are an ambitious productpreneur who refuses to compromise on quality whilst building your empire. I am, of course, your host, Kath Langman, and today I want to tackle one of the most critical yet misunderstood aspects of building a standout brand. And that is storytelling that actually differentiates you in the marketplace. And I want to start today by issuing a really short, easy challenge for each of you. I want you to go to any brand's website in your product category and read their About Us page. And then I want you to go to their competitors and do the same before comparing them all to your own. I mean, hopefully yours doesn't sound the same, but I would make a bet that a good 80% of them do sound pretty similar to each other. Maybe not word for word, hopefully not, but similar. It might be something like, we're passionate about quality. We only use the finest ingredients. We're committed to sustainability. Our products are handcrafted with care. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, everybody says such similar stuff. It's become almost like industry wallpaper. Technically, it's there, and it's not untrue or anything, but completely invisible because it's the same everywhere. So here's the problem. When you are trying to stand out in a competitive market, which you have to if your customers are actually going to notice your stuff and buy from you, uh, ultimately you're competing for the same customers, right? And your story isn't just marketing your content, it is your differentiation. I mean, the good thing is for those of you listeners who really struggle with the concept of being a salesperson and you have negative connotations about sales and selling, storytelling definitely makes that process easier. But the important thing to grasp is that when customers can't see a meaningful difference between brands because everyone's using the same generic messaging about whatever the key qualities are, like quality, craftsmanship, etc., then customers default to choosing based on price, generally, maybe sometimes by reviews or word of mouth, but it can end up being like whoever's got the slickest marketing or spending the most on ads. Whereas brands with authentic, strategic stories give customers a reason to choose based on other things, based on values alignment, based on emotional connection, anything that's important instead of just price comparison. So if you want to be the brand that is absolutely crushing it in your category, you need to figure out how to tell stories that are impossible to replicate by your competitors because they're authentically, uniquely yours. So today I want to share with you a strategic story framework that transforms boring brand positioning into really compelling narratives that customers can't get anywhere else. Because here's what so many brand owners don't realize. Your story isn't what you do. It should be why you exist and why that matters to your customers' lives. And here's why I think this matters more than you might think. Storytelling is literally the most memorable form of communication that humans have. It's why Indigenous cultures used storytelling to pass on their cultural knowledge and history for thousands of years before written language existed. Stories stick in our brains in ways that facts and features simply don't. So let's start briefly by understanding why storytelling creates such powerful differentiation and why most brands are kind of missing this massive opportunity. So the human brain is wired for narrative. When we hear a story, multiple areas of our brain activate, not just the language processing centers, but the areas that would be engaged if we were actually experiencing the events in the story. Whereas facts and features only activate language processing. Stories activate emotional centers, memory formation, and empathy responses. And this is why you can remember stories your grandmother might have told you decades ago, but you can't remember the specifications of the last 5 products you researched online. There's also the visual component that most brands, just kind of ignore. And I don't think that's intentional. It's like everyone's got lots on their plate, and, we're all a little bit prone to seeing other people's social media highlight reel or other brands, highlight reel and thinking, oh, well, that's obviously working really well. So I'm just going to emulate what they're doing. But, we can't operate like that. That saying, a picture sells 1,000 words. And that's true because visual storytelling evokes immediate emotional responses. It's also why road signs use images instead of text, because there's instant understanding. There's no cognitive processing required. Here's what's really fascinating though. Lots of brands think that storytelling means writing long copy about their founder's journey or their commitment to quality, or, something to that effect. That's not strategic storytelling. That's longer, boring content, which is not going to help, right? So let me give you an example of the difference. The boring version might be, we use organic ingredients sourced from sustainable farms to create effective, luxurious formulations for discerning customers who value quality and environmental responsibility. Which, it's all very nice and good. It's probably somewhat expected by most customers in the skincare space. A bit bland, not super engaging. What would be a more engaging version, a storytelling version, could be something like this. When Sarah's daughter developed severe eczema at age 3, every dermatologist prescribed the same harsh chemicals that just made the condition worse. As a trained chemist, Sarah knew there had to be gentler alternatives. After 2 years of kitchen experimentation with botanical extracts from their family farm, she created the first formula that actually healed her daughter's skin. That formula became their Gentle Renewal Serum, now trusted by thousands of families facing the same desperate search for solutions that actually work. Now, I've just made that up, but same information about natural ingredients and effectiveness, but one version is pretty forgettable. And, certainly, the first version was not offensive in any slightest way, but it was pretty forgettable. It was pretty bland. But the second version was more of an emotional story, and, it would have created instant connection and engagement with anyone who had been experiencing something similar. And that helps immediately differentiate a brand from their competitors. The story version ultimately answers a crucial question that every customer has. Why should I trust you? Why should I care? What's in it for me? Not necessarily with credentials or claims, but with authentic human motivation that really resonates with their own experiences and concerns. And, Indigenous cultures have understood this perfectly. Complex cultural knowledge, values, and wisdom were encoded in stories because stories are how humans naturally learn and remember and pass on important information. So your brand story should work the same way, encoding your brand's values, expertise, and unique approach in narratives that customers remember and share. So let me talk you through 5 layers of strategic storytelling that can create unsubstitutable brand narratives that really do stick in your customers' minds. And the first layer is the origin catalyst. Now, this is not your standard founder story. This is about identifying the specific catalyst moment that created your brand's unique perspective on your industry. Lots of brands will tell pretty generic founder stories. I was passionate about XYZ product category and I wanted to create better products. Or I just couldn't find exactly what I wanted. I mean, that's, again, it's pretty boring, it's pretty bland. Ultimately, you'd hope that every brand inventor or product inventor is going to be passionate, but that's not going to be, just that statement is not going to be enough to really motivate action or shift the needle with your marketing effectiveness. Strategic origin stories are different. They identify the specific problem, frustration, or insight that gave your founder a different perspective than everyone else in the category. So take Patagonia, for example. Their origin catalyst wasn't, we love outdoor gear. It was the founder's realization that traditional climbing gear was damaging the rock faces that he loved. And this specific environmental concern led to innovations in climbing equipment and eventually the entire environmental mission that defines that particular brand. Or consider Frank Body. I loved that brand when they first came out. So much fun. I mean, they're still fun with their marketing, but their origin catalyst wasn't we wanted to make skincare. It was the founders' frustration that coffee shops were throwing away thousands of kilos of used coffee grounds that could be upcycled into other effective products. And they came up with their body scrubs. And this waste to beauty insight ended up shaping their entire brand positioning around sustainability and resourcefulness. So, how do you find your origin catalyst? So, you can start by asking yourself what specific problem, frustration, or insight led to your brand existing, not just I wanted better products, but what specific gap or issue could you just not ignore? And the key here is specificity. The more specific your catalyst, the more unique your positioning becomes, and the more emotional connection you get to create with your customers who've experienced similar frustrations. The second layer is the philosophy framework, and this is where you get to articulate your unique perspective on how your category should work based on your origin catalyst. Lots of brands pretty much skip this layer entirely, jumping straight from we make good products to buyer stuff. But your philosophy framework is really what makes your approach unreplicatable. Let's take a look at Aesop. Their philosophy isn't just we make good skincare. Their framework is that skincare should be a sensory ritual experience that connects you to botanical ingredients and mindful self-care. And their philosophy shapes everything. Their store design, their product formulations, even their literary magazine. Or consider Blackmore's. Their philosophy framework is that health comes from understanding and working with your body's natural systems, not fighting against them. And this shapes their approach to formulation, education, and customer relationships. So your philosophy framework should answer, based on our unique insight, here's how we believe your product category should really work. Not that you necessarily state it like that in your marketing. I'm not suggesting that, but this, just in terms of being able to follow a story arc in your content. I've been following ex-MasterChef contestant Marion Grasby for ages on socials. I mean, right from when she was on the show, really, because honestly, with two competitive swimmers in this house, as many of you have heard me talk about, consume insane amounts of food every day. I need all the cooking inspiration I can get. But Marion's philosophy isn't just we make good cookware and food products. Her framework is really built around the belief that if you obsess over the details, you can create something truly remarkable. And this philosophy shapes everything across their brands, from their Mako performance cookware, designed, with obsessive attention to heat distribution, to their food products, crafted using time-honored techniques, to, they even have a curated marketplace featuring only products that meet their exacting standards. And their philosophy made them the obvious choice, or makes them the obvious choice for customers who really believe that cooking excellence comes from having tools and ingredients where every detail has been perfected. And they, ultimately attract people who resonate with that obsessive attention to detail, not people hunting for the cheapest kitchen gear, which, of course, in this house would break after the first week, given how how much we use and abuse everything in the kitchen here. Though I do confess, I'm not sure. I haven't tried Marion's wok. I'm just not sure it's big enough to cook the volume of food I have to produce for each meal. Maybe I will try it when at least one of them moves out of home. Anywho, the third layer of this storytelling framework is the values ecosystem. And this layer helps to connect your brand values to broader movements and causes that your customers care about, creating alignment beyond just product benefits. And there is a lot of evidence that's becoming more prevalent over recent years that more and more customers are shopping based on values. They are really looking to spend their money in an impactful way. So I guess the crucial part here is these can't just be generic good citizen values. They do need to flow naturally from your origin catalyst and your philosophy framework. So take the brand Thank You. Their values ecosystem isn't just we care about the world, it's specifically about transparency in how consumer purchases create social impact. And this flows from their origin catalyst, frustration with unclear charity giving, and their philosophy framework, consumers should know exactly how their money helps. Or one of my favorite Aussie brands, Who Gives a Crap, their values ecosystem around bog roll, toilet paper, is that it's a vehicle for global sanitation access. And that flows directly from their founders' shock at discovering billions of people around the world lacking basic sanitation. So for you, in your business, your brand, your values ecosystem should feel inevitable given your origin story and philosophy, not like you're just paying lip service. Or it cannot be, in fact, paying lip service to whatever the current trend or expectation might be around social responsibility, because that's not authentic and it's not going to be believable. But here's something crucial that so many brands do get wrong. You cannot hope to please everyone with your values ecosystem. And in fact, you need to be somewhat selective, if not maybe even divisive, to attract the right customers and actively repel the wrong ones. If your values don't turn some people off, they're probably too generic to turn anyone on. So the brands with the strongest positioning take really clear stands that resonate powerfully with their ideal customers, and whilst naturally filtering out, the customers who wouldn't be good long-term fits anyway. And so the key is that your values ecosystem should make customers feel like supporting your brand aligns with their personal values and the desired impact on the world. They choose you because your values resonate with theirs and not necessarily because you're offering the best deal. Fourth layer of this storytelling framework is the customer transformation journey. And this layer articulates the specific transformation your customers experience through engagement with your brand beyond just using your products. And generic brands tend to focus just on product features and benefits, like softer skin, better coffee, more comfortable clothes, great fit. Whereas strategic brands focus on other types of life transformations, confidence in your skin, mindful morning rituals, authentic self-expression. And there's going to be, much more specific examples that are relevant for your brand. Take Lululemon, the activewear brand. Their transformation journey isn't about athletic wear, it's about becoming your strongest, most intentional, confident self. And their messaging, their community events and partnerships all help to support this transformation narrative. What about Goop? Their transformation, love it or hate it, the brand, it isn't about individual products. It isn't even about the woo-woo stuff. It's just about someone becoming someone, rather, who prioritizes wellness and lives consciously. And so everything that they do helps to support this identity transformation. So your transformation journey should answer, what kind of person does someone become through ongoing engagement with our brand? And I want to share something from Indagare, our brand, Indagare Natural Beauty. Our customer transformation journey isn't just someone with skin concerns to someone with better skin. It's from someone struggling with the reality that their skin is changing in confusing ways as they age to someone who embraces their skin's evolution with confidence and knowledge. And this has led to educational content about things like hormonal skin changes, also product formulations specifically designed for these life stages and hormonal transitions. So customers aren't just buying anti-aging skincare, they're becoming really informed advocates for their own skin health journey. And they stay loyal because Indagare helps them to understand and embrace their changing skin rather than just trying to fight it with harsh chemicals. incidentally, a really interesting thing happened with Indagare late last year. It was right before Christmas. We had this crazy PR article or crazy response to a piece of PR that was published shortly before Christmas. And, with PR, you don't really, you have zero editorial control. You have no control over how the journalist is going to, pitch the tone or the, um, you know, it really isn't going to be any control over whether it's a great representation of your brand tone of voice or any of that. And this particular article was quite clickbaity in the way it was written. And it had a huge influx of customers who bought off that particular article, lasted for about 3 days, and then it died off. And a really low proportion of those customers have gone on to become the ongoing repeat customers. And generally within Indagare, we have a really high repeat customer rate. So, it just goes to show that if people are not buying because of that resonance, then they're probably not going to be your long-term customers. So I guess, it's a good thing that that was not like a massive meta ads campaign. Certainly, I wouldn't want to be spending money on advertising long term if they're not going to be bringing in customers who are going to stay with us. Anyway, back to the topic at hand here. I'm going to go through the final layer, fifth layer of our storytelling framework, and this is the future vision. So this final layer helps to articulate your brand's vision for how your category and your customers' lives could be better if your philosophy and approach became widespread. So this isn't about your business goals. It's really about your vision for positive change in the world through your product category. So Patagonia's future vision isn't about outdoor gear sales. It's about a world where business is used as a force for environmental protection. And this vision creates really fierce brand loyalty among customers who share that goal. So your brand's future vision should be inspirational enough that customers want to support it through their purchases and specific enough to your category that it feels achievable. So think of it as about starting a movement rather than just selling widgets. Aside from making your content much more engaging and effective, it'll also give you so much more inspiration about what topics to actually talk about in your content. So you're much less likely to need to struggle again, with what to put in your social media posts or in your next email campaign. I know many of you often struggle with that writer's block when you are trying to come up with that content. Now, here's why this storytelling framework is absolutely critical as we head into Q4 and Black Friday season. Think about what your customers are going to experience over the next few months. They are going to be bombarded with thousands of marketing messages daily from brands all saying pretty similar things about whatever they're selling, not to mention, very similar things about the, in terms of the same offers and the same promo events. Like the number of people, they go about just advertising their Black Friday sale. It's like, well, that's all well and good if you've got existing customers who already know about your business, your brand, your products, etc. But it's not going to cut through the noise for anyone new. So the brands that do cut through that noise will be the ones with the stories that stop the scroll and create that genuine emotional connection. I saw like there was such blatant evidence over the last couple of years in particular, but Black Friday last year definitely stands out to me with so many brands where using that standard, Black Friday sale messaging tanked their results versus the ones that had different, the good quality storytelling content did cut through and performed really, really well. So your strategic story isn't just nice to have content, it's your differentiation weapon for the most competitive sales period of the year, which is October to December. So when Black Friday hits and everyone's shouting about their deals, your story will be what makes your customers choose you over the sea of discounted alternatives. When customers are researching their Christmas gifts, your transformation journey narrative will help them understand why your products create meaningful impact beyond just functional benefits. And crucially, when you implement the retention strategies that I spoke about in a previous episode, I can't actually remember off the top of my head if it was last week or the week before, your strategic story becomes the foundation that turns Black Friday buyers into long-term advocates versus the one and done discount buyers who you're never going to see again. They don't just remember buying a product from you, they remember joining a bit more of a mission, a philosophy, and a community that resonates with their values. It's that feel-good moment. And so the brands that really master this heading into Q4 won't just have better Black Friday results, although they will, they'll also be building competitive moats that protect them throughout 2026 and beyond. I want to share a real example of story integration done well, in my opinion. Koala, the Australian furniture brand, has integrated their story across every single touch point. Their origin catalyst, frustration with furniture shopping being painful and environmentally wasteful. Philosophy framework, furniture buying should be easy, sustainable, and customer focused. Values ecosystem, environmental responsibility through product design and business practices. Transformation journey, from furniture shopping stress to home comfort confidence. And future vision, sustainable, customer-centric furniture industry. And so this story shows up in their product design, easy delivery, sustainable materials, their marketing, which is humorous, customer-focused messaging, their operations, carbon neutral delivery, tree planting, and their partnerships, environmental organizations, customer advocacy groups. Literally everything they do reinforces the same strategic story, making them pretty impossible to substitute with generic furniture retailers. Now, before I wrap up today, I want to share the biggest storytelling mistakes that undermine brand differentiation, because these are all pretty common. And the first one I want to share here is telling your own story instead of your customer's story. I've seen this a lot. If your website is saying I or me or we or our more than it talks about your customer, then you're in trouble. Your brand story should be about the transformation you enable in your customers' lives, not your company history or not just your own personal story. It's not all about you yourself, it's about your customers. So if you have no idea what your customers' stories are or how to find that out or what's important to them, then you definitely need to work that out. And that is something that you could learn from me. I've developed a unique framework for this, which is what makes us so successful at creating personalized content for each unique brand in a way that's just super engaging for their specific customers. And I can teach that to you as well. The second mistake is claiming values that you can't authentically demonstrate. If sustainability isn't genuinely important to you or central to your operations, then don't make it central to your story. We're all pretty smart, you know. If it's not authentic, your customers are gonna sniff you out, and then you're gonna break trust right from the outset. Mistake number 3 is copying your competitors' messaging, assuming that what appears to work for them will work for your brand too. Honestly, this is one of the fastest ways to become invisible, because you literally cannot stand out to customers if you look the same as the rest. Mistake number 4, inconsistent story activation across touch points. So your Instagram content, email, automated flows, campaigns, your product descriptions, your customer service, everything that you publish or share over any channel should all reinforce the same strategic story. Mistake number 5, forgetting visual storytelling. Your images also need to tell your story, and this should be the most powerful way to tell your story. So you're not just sharing it in words. So if your visuals could work for any brand in your category, they're not strategic enough. And then the biggest mistake would be trying to appeal to everyone instead of deeply resonating with your ideal customers. Successful brands succeed by being perfect for specific people, not acceptable to everyone. They attract customers who love what they stand for, not customers hunting just for the cheapest option that'll do the trick, right? So here's what I want you to understand. Your story is your most powerful competitive advantage because it's the one thing your competitors literally cannot copy. They can copy your products, they can copy your pricing, they can copy marketing tactics, but they can't copy your authentic origin catalyst and unique perspective. But developing and activating your strategic story requires a bit of deep work on brand positioning, customer psychology, and message integration across all your brand touch points. Now, if you're thinking, I know my brand has a unique story, but I need a little bit of help uncovering it and turning it into content that will have a positive impact for me this year and beyond. If that's you, I've got something a little bit special for you. I've decided to offer some free Black Friday and beyond strategy sessions, specifically for you podcast listeners and people in our productpreneur community who are maybe thinking you need a little bit of help from an expert and just want to suss out what that might look like. So if that's where you're at, just know these are not sales calls disguised as strategy sessions. They will be genuine deep dives where we will help you to put yourself and your business in the best position to maximize your remainder of the year, really. So if you want to book one of those in, just head to productpreneurmarketing.com/BFCM, short for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Spots will be limited, of course, to what my calendar has available, and also because they're not short sessions, I want to make sure I give each brand the attention this level of strategy requires. Now, in closing, just remember for yourself, your customers aren't just buying products, they're buying into stories, values, and visions that align with who they are and who they want to become. Make sure your story is worth joining and, more importantly, impossible to get anywhere else. That's it from me today on the show, and I look forward to being back with you again next week. Bye for now.